for inviting me to speak. I've known you for a long time, but this is a very special occasion. You know, Alan, there's an advantage in being 80. By the time you get 80, most of your enemies have died. You know, I'm not 80 yet, so I don't know what it is to be 80. I'm a bit young, I'm about 75. But it's quite old. And when I feel old, I read Dylan Thomas. You know Dylan Thomas, the poet, the American poet. And he says of old age, do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage against the dying of the light. That's the spirit to go into the future. It keeps me alive. Keeps me alive up to now. I've known Alan for I tried to count it, about 40 odd years. I met him first in the 80s when he was the president of the World Alliance of Reformed Churches. I was struck in those times to see the depth of thinking of the people involved at that time. Some of the meetings, as Alan will recall, were held in my chambers. And we had many meetings with the World Alliance of Reformed Churches leadership, Alan and people from here with him. So those were the high moments in Alan's life when he not only dealt or debated apartheid as a heresy, which was eventually accepted as a heresy. Reverend, you'll bear me out. That Alan's played a pivotal role in having apartheid declared a heresy, which is a significant moment, not simply politically, but also theologically. That in scriptural terms, apartheid was condemned. But over the years, he would emerge to play a leadership role in the UDF movement. That's why I saw a lot of him. He didn't always follow my advice, but we discussed each of the steps he had to take with the legals and legal issues involved. Alan, you led us then at the UDF. You led an entire generation at that stage, but you don't have to lead us now into the 80s. You're the first of our generation to become 80. Rasool is sitting next to you, still far behind you. But we accept that you're giving us capable leadership into old age. Now, it provided leadership that's unprecedented in South Africa. It was leadership of a theoretical input as well, not simply from a theological perspective, but politically as well. I was amazed at the depth of his thought, the logic of his thinking, and the politics that underpinned his thinking. Although I came from a different political background, some of you may know I was trained in the left-wing school of thinking, but Alan could debate with me and he could advance his issues as he did. And as Sats mentioned and somebody else mentioned, the fall in his life. That came after the height that he was achieved in leading the struggle. The fall, I wasn't his lawyer then. Pardon, you got it wrong. Where's Pardon? I wasn't his lawyer when the fall came, because I was then already, only reason for that was I didn't have a fallout with Alan. The only reason for that I was already a judge at that stage. But I think, Sats, you're right, he took a fall for all of us. Took a fall for the South African people. But let's put it in political terms, if I may, if you will bear with me. And I'll explain what I mean by what happened. I was at judges' meet for tea. And when the tea time talk is not necessarily confidential, so I can reveal it. What happens in chambers is confidential. The day Alan was sentenced, I just happened to be standing next to the judge. I didn't say anything to him. You could see my palpable anger. I was angry, but I didn't say anything to him. I restrained myself from saying anything. But every single white judge that walked in said, well done, John. John Foxcroft was the judge. Every single white judge that walked in said, well done, John. I'd never seen, I'd been short while in the bench at that time, and many years after that. I've never ever seen that again, where everybody walks in and congratulates the judge. They congratulate the judge in a simple matter for doing what we didn't expect him to do. And while they were saying so, he muttered to me, "Your former client is an arrogant chap." I kept quiet. I realized this is a moment to keep quiet and to formulate your thoughts. And he repeated that about 3 times, "Your former client is an arrogant chap," and saying it loudly. I stood up, we were standing, so that all the judges could hear. I said, "I don't give a damn about the arrogance of my client. What concerns me most is the arrogant revenge of the white middle class." That phrase and that echoed through the chambers of judges throughout the country. And I was placed outside the fold of judges because of that. But I was clear in political terms. What had happened is that not a judge who sentenced him, but the class who sentenced him. The class of people who had to recover a bit from the disempowerment in political terms. And I must remember, I can share with Alan, if you don't mind my sharing our personal experience. And then when Alan was incarcerated, of all things in the world, I was the chairperson of the National Council of Correctional Services. So I had direct access to the prisons. So here the chairman of the National Council comes to the correctional center, and they lay out a big table for me. A table of cookies and pies and tarts and tea and coffee, everything you could imagine was on that table. And then they sent Alan in and they closed the door. You know, I sat with Alan. It's the first time I saw him reluctant to take a pie, although he probably hadn't seen a pie for a while. And we had our discussion, and it was really just seeing that he was at ease. But I must tell this, and I told Alan this myself recently. When I left there and I got to my car, I cried. I cried to see the difference that had happened and why it had happened. I cried to see the misery that he was placed under because sheer heroism in the struggle against apartheid. He was brave. You know, it affected them the most because he was a clonky from Klaver or whatever place you come from. Kakamas. Right? You should be on their side. They had the same religion. And he was a clever priest, and he was in the same religious grouping, or well, sort of. But they got him because of that. That he stood against them, against the might of political authority, against the authority of a degenerate regime. Not so much, but the dominance of the white, not simply the white middle class, but the oligarchy, racial oligarchy that ruled. He antagonized the racial oligarchy, which was disempowered. That resulted in his fall, not for any doing that he did, but because the system wanted somebody to fall, and he was targeted because of high profile. You know, I'm not allowed to comment on the judgment because I'm still a retired judge, still a judge. But I'm not afraid to say that few judges would have gone the way that he went. He was actually, the conviction that was handed down was actually reversed on appeal. And Ian Farlam, a clever guy, we thought he was on our side, scratched the record to convict him on another incident. And that's how it came about. The Constitutional Court, they only looked at the issue of whether the fact that he hadn't rebutted meant that they can't hear the case, couldn't find in his favor. But it was a system that was arranged against him, Alan. It was a system that was arranged, a system which still targets us today. We all were victims of that system in one way or the other. But we must pay tribute to Alan as I do today. Alan, let me congratulate you for reaching 80. Let me just deviate a bit from my speech also, that, I see Alan lot around because I'm still got activist pants on. And I see Alan at meetings, protest marches in support of Palestine, and now recently in support of Iran. Alan is there. Alan, let me tell you this, and Rasool may be sitting next to you, a big man in his time. But the system failed because of a coterie of judges who developed our constitution. A constitution which today means that we get 9 out of 10 for freedom of speech. We get 3 out of 10 for poverty improvement. What we've seen in this country today, and that's why I want to be back on the barricades with Alan, despite our respective old age, that we're back on the barricade to transform this country in a society in which the poor shall triumph. A society, Reverend, in which shall achieve the gains of the vast majority of this country. A society in which they've been excluded from the gains of this country's tremendous wealth. Alan, we are back on the barricades. And wish you well in the future years. Thank you very much.
Well, there'll be no secret about where I'm going to make my